Hey everybody, Mr. Judson here. So we're still working with synthetic division today, and just looking at different ways that the book could ask us questions where we would use synthetic division to answer that. So here's one. Is x equals 2/3 a solution to this equation? Well, if it is, it means I should be able to do synthetic division with 2/3 and get 0 as a remainder. If I don't get 0 as a remainder, then no, it's not a solution. So you guys go ahead and try that. Go ahead and do synthetic division, see if you get 0 for a remainder, and if you do, then you know the answer. So let me set up my numbers here. I've got 48, -80, 41, -6, and I'm going to do synthetic division with 2/3. So go ahead and bring the first number straight down, and I need to multiply by 2/3. So you guys can do this on a calculator if you want. The way I do it is I think, okay, if I'm doing 2/3 times 48, let's first of all do 48 divided by 3, that's 16, times 2, that's 32. And now I'll go ahead and add those together, and what I get is a -48. So I'll do the same thing again. 2/3 times that, it's still going to be 32, but this time I'm doing a positive times a negative, so that's a -32. And so 41 minus 32, that would be 9. If I do 2/3 times this, I'll do 2 times 9 and get 18. 18 divided by 3 is 6, and those add up to 0. So, yes, 2/3 is a solution. Okay? They didn't ask us what's the answer to the division problem. They just said, is that a solution? And yes, it is, because we got 0 as a remainder. Okay, let's try another one. All right, so here's a problem that's similar to the last one. Is x equals the square root of 2 a solution to this equation? You guys go ahead and try it. All right, so again, I'll set up my synthetic division. 1, 2, -2, -4. Again, messy number, so I'm going to go ahead and use the full box here. So I'll bring the first number straight down, and then I'll multiply and add to the next. So √2 times 1 is √2. If I add those two together, I get 2 plus the square root of 2. You can't combine those. They're not like terms, right? When dealing with square roots, you have to have the exact same square root in both terms to be able to add those together. All right, so now I'll take the square root of 2 times this. So I'm going to get 2 √2, and then plus 2. So these two add up to 0. And that means all I'm left with is 2 √2. So now I'm going to take √2 times this and add to -4. So √2 times √2 would be 2. Times 2 more, that would be 4. And those add up to 0. So yes, again, this is a solution. So yes, x equals √2 is a solution. Alright, let's try a different one. Alright, so this question, it says to completely factor this expression if x plus 2 is a factor. So they're giving us one of the factors to kind of help us out to get started. Later on, we're going to have to figure this out on our own. Okay, but for right now, they're saying, okay, here's one factor. Use it as a way to help factor this. Okay, you guys go ahead and try it. Well, let's see, if I do synthetic division, the numbers I have here are 2, 1, -5, and 2. And I'm going to do synthetic division with -2. And I think for this one, these numbers are easy enough that I'll just go ahead and do all this in my head. I'll bring the 2 straight down. And so then if I multiply, I get -4. Add it to 1, I get -3. And then a +6 minus 5, that's 1. And then a -2 plus 2, that's 0. So I know that I've got x plus 2. That comes from this right here. And when I divide this by x plus 2, what I get is 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. Okay, these are the coefficients of my answer. So the question now is, could I factor this farther? Right? So let's try it. X plus 2. Let's see, this would be 2x times x. That could only be 1 times 1. And so what would it take to get a -3? If both of these were negative, so I get 2x squared, -2x minus another x, that'd be -3x, and then negative times a negative is a positive. So there it is. I have completely factored that. We're going to use their hint to get this from a cubic expression down to a quadratic expression. And then quadratics, we've been working on factoring those, stuff we've learned in the past. We just got to factor that last little bit. Okay? Let's try another one. All right, so for this problem, it says to use your graphing calculator to help factor this expression. Right? Not an equation, because there's no equal sign. This is just an expression. Well, if I have x to the 4th, that means I'm looking for 4 factors inside parentheses that give this to me. Okay? You know, I've seen some evidence of this happening, like people would just guess. Like they'd write down x minus 2 times x minus 13 times x plus 14 times x plus 24. Math will never work out that way. Never. Right? We got to go through and do the work to figure out what those factors are. But really what I want to do is I want to see if I can do synthetic division and get 0 as a remainder. The question is, what numbers am I going to try to do that with? And they're saying use your graphing calculator as a way to help. You guys go ahead and try it. All right, so if I'm going to do synthetic division, I know I'm going to have the numbers 1, -2, -13, 14, and 24. The question is, what number do I want to work with out here? And that's where the graphing calculator comes in. So here's my equation. I've already typed it in. And what I want to do is I want to look to see where does this thing cross the x-axis, because that's where your zeros are, right? I'm going to go zoom option 4. So that this isn't a complete graph, but I can at least see where it crosses the x-axis. Let me change my y values just a little bit. I'm going to say, let's just go -20 to +20. And we'll count by 5s. I just want to see what it looks like. Okay, that's a little bit better. I still know it's not a complete graph, but I can at least see what this thing does. So what I'm looking for is, where does it cross the x-axis? Looks like it's crossing at 2. Right? That's a 0, 2 comma 0. So I should be able to put in a 2 here, do synthetic division, and get 0 at the end. So I'll bring my 1 straight down, I'll multiply, I get 2, add those, you get 0. I'll then multiply, I get 0, add it to this, I get a -13. Multiply here, you get a -26. Plus 14, that would be a -12. Let's see, I'm not writing down my numbers here, so -26, add those, you get a -12. And then -12, or 2 times a -12, that's a -24. Add those, I get 0. there's one of my zeros, which I will use to write a factor. Okay, I need to make sure I know that this is going to be the factor x minus 2. Since I have these numbers written here, I could just go ahead and continue on and do synthetic division. But real important here, I don't want to use this 0. I am now using this set of numbers. Okay? Because I've already got one factor. I'm trying to factor this a little bit farther. So if I go back and look at the graphing calculator, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 should work. So let's try that. So I'll bring the 1 straight down, multiply, I get 4. Add that to 0, we get 4. Then I get 16. Add those, you get 3. And then 12. Add those, you get 0. So that means this is now the factor x minus 4. And the moment I get down to 3 numbers, I've got myself to the point where I have a quadratic expression, and I know how to factor those. So that's when I quit doing synthetic division. Here's what I know so far. I've got x minus 2 times x minus 4. This was x to the 4th, this was x to the 3rd, this is x to the 2nd power. So I've got 1x squared plus 4x plus 3. And my question is, could I factor that farther? And yes, I can. I already knew I could factor it farther because I saw where we went through the x-axis on the graph at -1 and at -3. Right? So that means this should be x plus 1 and this should be x plus 3. Let's just double check it. X squared plus 3x plus another x, that's plus 4x, and 1 times 3 is 3. There it is. I have factored that expression. Now, somebody could say, Judson, when we looked at the graph, we already saw it crossed at 2, so x minus 2. We saw it crossed at 4, so x minus 4. We saw that it crossed at -1, so x plus 1. And we saw that it's crossed at x, or at -3, so x plus 3. Why did I have to go through and do all this when I already knew the answer? Well, because we're trying to build a process here, okay? Eventually what I want to be able to do is I want to say to you guys, factor this expression and you get no help. Do it on your own. And so you can start to see the process. We find one number that works. We got 0 here. And then we found another number that works. And then we're going to factor what's left. So I think the process here is what's important, not just getting these answers. Okay, I hope that makes sense to all of us. All right. So that's what we have for today. A little more work with synthetic division. Again, nothing super hard. I think this stuff is fairly easy for us. We're just doing some multiplying and adding in our heads, and eventually our goal is to be able to factor expressions without all this extra help that we're getting. That's what we're trying to build up towards. All right, let me get you guys a homework assignment. All right, so there we go. Assignment number 12. This is Wednesday's portion. Page 160, we're going to do 45, 50, 53, 55, 59, number 60, 63, 66, 68, 70, and 71. All right, there it is, you guys. Have a good day. Stay safe. I will see you on either Thursday or Friday. Take care.